Hello there, my very good friends. On today's wrestling news, we got some sad news from Sting.
An AEW debutant emerges as a legitimate draw.
Tony Khan cannot be controlled.
And a missing AEW star finally returns. I'm Adam Wilborn.
And I'm Andy Murray.
And this is the news.
Hardest news team in the game. Let's kick this thing off by talking about Sting.
Oh.
He's retiring. Not terribly soon, but quite soon. He unpacked his plans on last night's episode of Dynamite. So obviously for Dynamite, there was a Wheel Here from Sting diagram, poster thing that the AEW produced, and they announced it and all of that stuff. And as soon as that happened, a lot of people went, oh, he's retiring. And he is. So he came out, he did an in-ring promo. Name dropped a bunch of people. I thought this promo was really funny.
Yeah, I did too.
Because he named people like Dusty Rhodes and Lex Luger.
Yay!
And then Hulk Hogan. And he was like, yeah, I get it. It's like he was just kind of like listing all of his cancelled friends.
I can understand it from both sides. Like, he obviously, did a lot of stuff with Hulk Hogan, but in the current state of affairs, it's understandable gets that reaction.
Sting gets it as well.
Yeah.
He acknowledged it. Ric Flair name dropped as well. Obviously, Sting's most famous opponent. All of that stuff. He mentioned his 2015 retirement, which he said didn't sit right with him. Of course it didn't. It was grim. And then he spoke of how he wrestled his first match for AEW at Revolution 2021.
What a match that was.
Sensational. And he's going to have his last match at Revolution 2024, which means we have about 4 months of the Stinger left.
Yeah.
In AEW, there was an angle later in the show, big brawl. Luchasaurus, Nick Wayne, that gang of assholes.
What's the tooth?
Poor guy. He's like 17, 18 or something.
But Christian Cage, sensational as always.
He's just the best. You can't be losing your goddamn teeth when you're 17 years old in wrestling.
Should have answered the phone, Andy.
Yeah, he should have wore a mouthpiece. Unlike Terry Funk, rest in peace, Terry Funk and Jay Briscoe.
Yeah, legend.
Terry Funk ain't wearing no damn mouthpiece. All-time great. But yeah, there you go. Sad, bittersweet stuff. It's sad because he's retiring. But he's had such a fun run. It's the most good vibes, the best good vibes to minutes ratio in wrestling has belonged to Sting over these past 3 or 4 years in AEW, particularly when you consider that by the end of his WWE run, he seems so broken physically.
To use your words, goosed.
Yeah, he was goosed. He was absolutely goosed. His back was in a million different pieces. The idea of him wrestling again was ridiculous. And then he turned up and he took the powerbomb from Brian Cage. I remember the first powerbomb he took in the build to Revolution. I was like, pardon me?
I'll never forget that dive off the stage because I was like, okay, old man Sting, do your Scorpion Death Drop and thanks very much. Jesus!
The very first big dive he did against the Men of the Year, it was like, what the hell? And he's done even bigger ones since then. So I've loved this Sting run. He's an all-time great. He's a lovely man, and I'm going to really make the most of these last 4 months.
Yeah, I say mixed emotions about this. Mainly sad, but mixed with, I'm glad he's able to do it on his own terms. And the thing that he said, he said, my first match at AEW Revolution. I thought, oh my God, he's going to say Full Gear and we've got less than a month.
Yeah.
But he said Revolution, so I was like, okay, so we've got a bit of time to appreciate it and, try and cram some good stuff in there beforehand. But yeah, I mean, obviously, what a legend. I'm very happy that this is the retirement, like you say, and not the 2015 one, because it was just like, it's like when any wrestler has to retire because of injuries, and you're like, well, no, because I didn't get to appreciate that was the last one. Like the noise and the reaction he's going to get at the last Revolution is going to be insane.
And he should main event that show. But let us know down below your memories of Sting, your favourite moments. Let us know how AEW should book his retirement as well.
And whose last match should be against.
Oh yeah, here we go.
We're making our money's worth out of this.
Sting's last opponent in
$5,000 this box cost.
Legendary career, 4 decades, 5 decades. He will face Dax Harwood!
I don't know much about retirement.
That would actually be good.
Or, alternatively, Sting versus Nick Jackson.
Which would you prefer? Let us know in the comments below. I was hoping we'd get, Lufer or something strange. Anyway, story number 2.
We're going to feed him to Lance Archer.
Oh, gosh.
But it was great noise, great crowd on last night's AEW Dynamite, which has been a rarity, let's be honest, recently. But that was because of one new star of theirs, CMLL star, Mystico. He was obviously announced for Rampage, that match against Rocky Romero, which has already happened, but he's going to happen on Friday night because of the weird way it works with tapings and what have you. But Dave Meltzer, sort of followed up on this and pointed out, it's kind of down to Mystico why they shifted so many tickets towards the end. Mystico posted on X? Nope. Meltzer did. As of this morning, AEW's show tonight has moved well over 2,100 tickets since the announcement of Mystico. Some of this is lowering prices, but every company lowers prices, if not sold out at the end. This is a noteworthy number, but also notable. Mystico's first AEW appearance and being in Houston is a one-time thing. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you can argue, well, maybe people just were waiting for the ticket prices to drop and then they bought tickets. But
they do that every week.
Exactly, and it's never 2,000 tickets getting moved.
I think part of this, there was probably maybe like a bit of movement for the Sting stuff as well. But I don't think people realize how big a draw Mystico is. Like, this is a guy who, and keep in mind, this is an objective award. It's not just, people voting or whatever. It's numbers, so it's not made up. Mystico was the Wrestling Observer box office draw of the year in 2006, right? And he was the box office draw of the decade based on the houses he was pulling in CMLL for that decade, beating John Cena, beating Brock Lesnar, you name it. He topped that list because he was legitimately pulling those houses. In Mexico, CMLL does create... I don't know what their numbers are like these days, but like in Arena Mexico, they're doing like tens of thousands of people multiple times a week. So this guy's a huge draw in Mexico. Clearly it's contributed a little bit here as well.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I think it's a really cool match for AEW to book.
I might actually watch a bit of Rampage once.
Look at this, wrestling journalist doesn't watch the show.
Why do I watch the show, Paul?
To be fair, NXT. But, I think it's a really cool match for them to book. Rocky's had a great year in CMLL. He's the perfect person to book against Mystico, who's also had a really good year.
Is it saying pound for pound? That's the gimmick, isn't it, for the match? Yeah.
The double belt gimmick.
Yeah.
A lot of people will rubbish this guy because he was the original Sin Cara in WWE. You're silly if you do that.
Let it go.
This guy's fantastic. I cannot wait to see the match.
And, my source, I got my source saying,
of
my little
course.
words tell me that this is actually not going to be Mystico's only match in AEW. Do you know who he's going to face? Let's do the game again!
Oh,
2 for 2, baby!
The audience is fed up of this already, aren't
Never.
they? Alex Reynolds.
Okay.
All right. Pop Alex Reynolds back in the box, please, sir. Thank you. Cool. All right.
Once you move on, I'm going to find his other next opponent, which is... Danhausen.
I'd be to see that.
Very nice, very nice, very nice, very evil. Yeah, works for me.
Good stuff. Right, let's move on. Chris Jericho has said that Tony Khan cannot be stopped, basically. So, you remember last week, Tony went nuts on Twitter.
Did he? I didn't notice that.
I don't need to go back over that. You know what happened. Stuff. Chris Jericho's commented on it, and he's done so via The Messenger. Not an outlet I was familiar with, but they're
Facebook Messenger.
They seem legit. I've done a bit. I looked them up.
I will say this for Andy: we are very specific with the sources we use on these news. There are some that we go, I'm not using that.
Yeah, I don't need to name them.
They just tweet bollocks.
Yes, they certainly do. Jericho. Speaking about Tony Khan, here's what he said. I learned years ago that bosses are going to be bosses and billionaires are going to be billionaires.
Oh boy.
They do be billionairing.
They do.
I've been working with billionaires for 25 years. At this point, you can't control Tony Khan. He's going to do what he wants, and God bless him. He created this company. He runs this company. He also grew up in the social media era.
Yeah.
Which is key. He continued a little bit saying, I'm not going to tell him, put your phone away, because he's my boss. Say what you want, whatever. I think it'd be worse if I said that stuff because I'm not the boss,
Yeah.
Tony Khan owns AEW. He can do whatever he wants. I'm not going to tell him no. So Jericho's been a big-time player for AEW since day one. He still is today. He was obviously the first world champion. He's reported at one point to be quite a close confidant of Tony. I assume that's still the case. So it's pretty interesting seeing him speaking quite freely about this. But, I think it's a fair response from Jericho. He's like, look, I can't tell my boss what to do.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think there's an argument to be made. There was reports last week of people in AEW being like, put the phone down, Tony. But also, Tony Khan, I'm sure if you knocked on his door and said, boss, you need to stop tweeting, he'd be like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realise you own this company.
Yeah, 100%.
Fair enough.
It's good to see, it's good to see Chris Jericho quite recently in the media getting really passionate about the topics that really matter to him. So like Tony Khan tweeting, Flat Earth. He loves it.
Let's move on to our final story.
I'm not saying he's a flat earther, but he did the podcast.
But if the Earth was flat, it'd make it easier to travel to come to our show.
No.
Huh? That's really awkward saying like that. Dudley Boys on tour, 21st of November at the Mosaic Tap right here in beautiful Newcastle upon Tyne. Technically we're in Gateshead, but still. You can get tickets right now, whatculture.com/tickets. Yeah, close enough. Yeah. Right, let's move on and give you an update on Serena Deeb. We've been reporting recently, obviously, about her having the serious disagreement backstage in AEW about her TV time, rumours about a match being cut short and what have you. Sources do deny that within AEW. But she's back. She was backstage at Collision last week. This was reported by Fightful Select. It went down in Toledo, Ohio, which the outlet reports isn't anywhere near where she should have just been visiting. So it wasn't just like, oh, this is a nice coincidence. Yeah. It appears that...
you should just drive to Florida for a quick...
Yeah, don't just pop over.
Yeah.
Fences have been mended, is that the phrase? Bridges have been rebuilt?
Who the heck knows? Get her back on TV, get her back in the ring.
I will say she also has been missing because of an undisclosed injury, so it could be something and nothing her missing. No word, of course, when she's going to be back actually on TV. Fingers crossed very soon because she's just brilliant.
Yeah, I don't really care why she fell out with management or whatever. I don't care. Just get her back on TV and in the ring because she's really good.
It's not our business, is it?
Yeah, like, whatever. Maybe matches did get cut, maybe they didn't. Bleh. I just like watching her wrestle, so
yeah,
throw her in the ring.
She's great, and she's a lot more than a coach.
Yeah.
Nice one, WWE. Right, let's move on to your questions. Sometimes we take them from eggs at WhatCulture WWE, but the rest of this week we've been taking them from the YouTube community page. So you just go on there right now. There's still a thread. Took them from there yesterday, taken them from there today. We'll take them from there tomorrow as well. Send us your questions on there, just like Powerhouse891. No word on whether or not that is Powerhouse Hobbs or not. But Powerhouse writes, bit of a left field question. Do you think WWE and the industry in general would benefit from sending their promising NIL, next in line, an unused talent on their rosters out for matches in the indies, building a relationship with places like OVW, etc.? It would give the talent a chance to get noticed and for the NIL athletes to get some ring time under their belts and how to work in front of a crowd.
I think that all developmental wrestlers, be they in WWE where they're classified as such with contracts, or AEW where they're, maybe only wrestling like once a month or whatever, young up and coming wrestler, everyone would benefit from getting more reps and everyone would benefit from working the indies a lot more.
Yeah.
Even like prominent AEW players like Will Hobbs, like if Powerhouse Hobbs was balancing his AEW TV stuff with like going out to an indie every week and just having fun matches, I think it would benefit even people like him a lot. Like as in like he's great already, but like he could get even better if he did that. And he goes all the way down, like the NIL wrestlers. Some of them will never make it into WWE. Some of them will never make it to the Performance Center.
No.
But like green people who've not been on TV or have only been on TV, people who are less ahead than like a Hobbs or whoever. Who's a good example from AEW? I guess Sky Blue, but she's looking really great recently.
Yeah, since she's been corrupted.
Yeah, corrupted. Nick Wayne's probably a good shout, but he comes across really well on TV as well, so I'm not sure he needs it anymore. He's done loads of indies already. So yeah, I do think it would be beneficial.
Yeah, I think WWE are very set in their ways, obviously, of like, no, very insular, like we work in the Performance Center and we maybe sometimes rehearse the same match week after week after week, and at best you'll work it in front of a crowd of your peers. But I think you're right, I think working out in front of a crowd, getting the reps, is important, yes, as well, but working in front of a crowd, all you ever hear from legends when they tell stories about them starting out is like, I thought I had this perfect gimmick and I took it out there and it got no reaction, and I had to kind of work it on the fly. Or you go out there and you think you're going to get a certain reaction and it's something completely different, or you go out there and you have this specific match planned out and you go, it's not going to work in front of this crowd. I think learning that rather than learning that when you're out in front of a TV audience is crucial. I don't see it happening for WWE athletes, but who knows? Maybe with this new Triple H regime, we can hope.
There's a couple of nuances we should add, not to drag this on and on, but AEW does allow talent to work indie shows, but they're quite selective, and it could be that, like I used Hobbs as an example, maybe he doesn't want to do it. Yeah. Fair enough. There's probably people like that who are in that situation. The second caveat is that we should mention that WWE working with other promotions doesn't usually end well for the other promotion. Like, goes all the way back to the indies. The most recent example of them working with indies would be the UK scene. Also, their Evolve relationship. Where is Evolve now? Exactly. So, personally, it would be good for certain wrestlers, but it's not something I want to see because I like a thriving ecosystem. I don't like the big companies gobbling the other ones up. And that usually happens with WWE. Look, I'm not being a hater. Some people will say that. It's just how it is.
Next question today comes from Feathermore, who says, what do we think of Jey Uso being the one to dethrone Gunther? I feel like they want to strap Jay up sooner rather than later to recognise his merch sales and credibility with the audience.
I could see him having a match for that belt, but I don't think he'll win it.
He's not the guy, is it? It's Chad Gable.
Yeah, I think the Chad and Gumper is the story. Whenever you do that, be it Survivor Series, be it the Royal Rumble, be it Saudi Arabia in 2 weeks, that crept up. So many shows these days. It's like the era of WWE when they had a pay-per-view every 2 weeks.
No, please no.
Wild, but good for the content. I think Chad is the story there, and Jay's story heading to Mania is probably Jimmy.
Yeah, I think eventually they will strap Jay up. What title it would be? Maybe a push the World Heavyweight Championship.
24/7, bring it back. Why not?
It's one of those, isn't it? That they used to be like, world titles, you can have the mid-card titles.
Yeah.
Now it feels like Roman's world title, world heavyweight title, kind of right below that IC title with what Gunther's done with it, and then United States Championship a little bit lower than that. So I don't know whether giving him the US title would be enough in my eyes.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know.
Maybe he wins the IC title further down the line after Chad Gable's held it for a bit and goes on. Could be a fun Chad Gable heel turn, couldn't there?
Yeah. He's a good heel.
Yeah.
A real annoying little twerp.
But you're right.
He's great.
For the time being, he's going to do Bloodline stuff probably at War Games and then more Bloodline stuff at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
MS Volters gives us our final question of the day. Thank you, MS Volters, for this. Good morning, legends. Morning. Greetings from Germany. Guten Tag. With the recent success of pay-per-views outside the US, Clash of the Castle, Backlash, All In, could WWE or AEW start an annual foreign pay-per-view that goes to a different city/country every year, like the Champions League final? I think the demand is there, and of course not like the Saudi blood money shows.
Nice.
Yeah.
Telling it like it is. Yeah, I'd be in favour of that. I like international shows. I like big international events. Backlash felt really fun.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're biased towards the UK shows, but they've done a really good job of.
James going to Australia.
Yeah. They are going to Australia too. But yeah, I'm in favour of this. You can make it like the World Cup or something. And you remember who won the last World Cup in WWE?
Oh, God.
Yeah. So you can do that again as well. Who won the Two-Wake Mountain Trophy?
Taker.
That was the Undertaker.
The piss trophy.
Frozen shard
the big piss trophy, yeah.
Yeah.
That was where he beat up the OC in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Backstage in Saudi Arabia.
And then he beat up AJ Styles in like 2 moves.
That's a weird tournament. It's like, cool, we got like Styles and Andrade in. And like, what if Truth went on a run in there? Like,
wasn't that match like half an hour long as well?
What is going on, guys? But I'd love to see something like this. Like you say, I mean, there's other countries. I mean, Germany, for example. There's other countries that they could go to. You know, obviously, I want them to go back to Puerto Rico. I want everyone to come back here regularly. Australia, yeah, and
I feel like Germany would be great.
Yeah,
like,
the audience there is awesome.
If their wrestling fan culture is anything like their football fan culture, it'll be the best crowd of the year, 100%.
Plus, have the Champions League music because that's awesome.
Why not? I like I'm partial to the old Europa conference /
Yes.
I should.
Hey, man. Oh no, so that's different.
I should be the band or something.
You should. And you know what you should do? Check out this video.
Peace.